People underestimate how quickly their ambitions become weapons in the hands of others. The moment you reveal your plans, you stop being a mystery and start becoming a target. People don't study your goals because they admire you. They study them to locate your weaknesses, your timing, and the exact point where they can interfere. Human nature is driven by envy, insecurity, and competition. And the more predictable you become, the easier it is for others to design a strategy against you. Silence forces them to guess. Guessing forces them to hesitate. Hesitation gives you control. Most people believe that openness creates trust, but in reality, openness gives people access to your vulnerabilities. When you speak about what you want to achieve, you activate two types of observers: those who fear losing to you and those who fear being outgrown by you. They won't openly tell you this, but they will quietly study your next steps, compare them to their own, and look for any chance to slow you down, outmaneuver you, or subtly make your progress hard. The majority of sabotage in life is silent. It comes through delayed help, passive resistance, withheld information, strategic discouragement, or sudden obstacles that appear by coincidence. None of this happens when you stay quiet. You maintain power when people cannot read you. Uncertainty forces respect because people can't predict whether you're harmless or dangerous, weak or calculating, passive or planning. The less they know, the more cautious they become around you. Every strong figure in history grew in the shadows, not in the spotlight. You don't announce a direction, you move in it. You don't explain your motives, you let outcomes speak. When you eliminate access to your intentions, you eliminate their ability to interfere. Silence becomes a shield, and unpredictability becomes leverage. If you are watching this, you already sense the difference between speaking for validation and acting for dominance. People don't need to know what you're building. They only need to see the results when it's too late for them to stop you. That is the psychology of power. If you want more content that sharpens your mind and strengthens your strategy, subscribe to Dark Psychology Blueprint. Leave a comment with your thoughts and stay until the end of every video. The less the world knows about your next move, the harder it becomes for anyone to stand in your way. Revealing your plans gives others a roadmap to interfere. People interfere only when they understand where you're going. The moment you reveal your plans, you give them the exact map they need to slow you down, block your path, or quietly redirect the outcome in their favor. You think you're just sharing your goals, but what you're really doing is handing out the blueprint of your intentions. And once people have that blueprint, they no longer need to guess. They only need to wait for the right moment to strike. People don't sabotage you out of principle. They sabotage you out of fear, envy, and self-preservation. When someone sees your direction, they instantly begin calculating how your success affects their status, their influence, or their position. They will smile in your face while quietly feeding doubts into your circle, delaying their support, or making moves that weaken your momentum. They don't need to attack you directly. They simply need to know your timeline and your steps. Once they have that, interference becomes effortless. Every plan you reveal becomes a vulnerability. People gather information, not just to understand you, but to restrict you. They analyze your goals to predict where you'll be strong and where you'll be exposed. A revealed plan allows them to exploit your weak points, influence your decisions, or insert their own agenda into your path. Even those who appear supportive may have interests that contradict yours. And the moment your plan threatens their comfort, they adjust their behavior in ways that quietly slow your progress. When you keep your intentions hidden, you give others nothing to prepare for. Silence creates uncertainty, and uncertainty is a weapon. It forces people to hesitate because they can't measure your risk to them. They can't prepare counter strategies. They can't copy your ideas, and they can't build obstacles in advance. You move while they stand still. You evolve while they speculate. In secrecy, you gain the advantage of surprise. and surprise is one of the most effective forms of psychological dominance. People cannot attack what they cannot define. Once you speak your plans out loud, you allow others to control the narrative, influence your direction, or manipulate your timing. But when your plans remain yours alone, you eliminate every opportunity for interference. You become unpredictable, untouchable, and strategically protected. In power, the path you hide is always safer than the path you reveal. Most people want you to succeed only until your success threatens them. They will applaud your ambition as long as it stays beneath their level. The moment your progress begins to challenge their status, their ego, or their sense of control, their support quietly transforms into resistance. This shift is not emotional. It is strategic. People do not fear your dreams. They fear the moment those dreams place you above them. You notice this subtle change in their behavior long before they admit it. Their encouragement becomes weaker, their enthusiasm becomes forced, and their interest in your growth begins to feel artificial. They start asking questions not to understand you, but to measure how far you might rise. The same people who once celebrated your potential will begin calculating how your success might reduce their influence or expose their mediocrity. And the more you rise, the more their insecurity sharpens into silent rivalry. Human nature is governed by self-preservation. Most individuals prefer to be surrounded by people they believe they can outshine or control. When your success disrupts that balance, they experience you as a threat, not a friend. They may not act openly against you, but they will adjust their attitude in ways that slow your progress. They offer less help. They respond with less urgency. They withdraw support at the moments where it matters most. It's subtle, calculated, and entirely predictable. The people closest to you often struggle the most with your rise because they built their identity around who you used to be. When you evolve, you create a psychological tension they cannot reconcile. Your improvement forces them to confront their stagnation. Your discipline exposes their laziness. Your ambition exposes their comfort. And instead of growing with you, they begin protecting themselves from the comparison you unintentionally trigger. This is why your success must be protected from unnecessary exposure. You cannot expect loyalty from those whose pride is threatened by your progress. The more you advance, the more carefully you must manage what others see and what they believe. When people think your rise benefits them, they support you. When they think it surpasses them, they resist you. Understanding this shift is essential to navigating power. You don't need their approval, you need their miscalculation. Let them believe you are progressing slowly. Let them underestimate your direction. Because the less threatened they feel, the easier it becomes for you to rise without interference and surpass them before they realize what happened. Silence forces others into uncertainty, and uncertainty makes them cautious. The less you reveal, the more people are forced to guess, and guessing is dangerous for them, but powerful for you. When they cannot read your intentions, they cannot predict your next move, prepare a counter-strategy, or decide whether you are a threat or an ally. Your silence becomes a psychological fog that blinds their judgment and slows their actions. People rely on information to feel secure. They need clarity to plan, to position themselves, and to control outcomes. When you remove that clarity, you remove their ability to influence your direction. Silence disrupts their confidence because it leaves them with too many unanswered questions. Are you advancing? Are you retreating? Are you observing? Are you planning? Their uncertainty creates hesitation, and hesitation is the beginning of your leverage. Most individuals respond to silence with fear, disguised as curiosity. They will ask more questions, pretend to show support, or try to provoke you into revealing something. They don't do this to understand you. They do it to protect themselves. Your silence puts them at a strategic disadvantage, and they feel it. They become more reactive, more cautious, and more careful in your presence. because unpredictability is always perceived as a potential threat. When you speak less, people start projecting their own fears onto you. They imagine possibilities that may not even exist. They begin overestimating your intelligence, your resources, your connections, and your influence simply because they cannot measure them. This overestimation creates respect and sometimes fear without you having to lift a finger. The mind of your opponent becomes your battlefield, and your silence is the weapon that creates the uncertainty they cannot endure. Unpredictability forces people to treat you with caution. It prevents them from making bold moves against you because they cannot gauge the consequences. A silent man is difficult to manipulate because there is no emotional signal to exploit and no clear weakness to target. Silence turns you into a problem they cannot solve, and most people avoid attacking what they cannot understand. You gain power not by saying more, but by revealing less. The world becomes easier to navigate when others cannot anticipate your steps. Silence protects your intentions, magnifies your presence, and destabilizes those who rely on certainty to feel superior. When people don't know what you will do next, they move slower, think twice, and approach you with caution, giving you the space to strike from a position of complete advantage. When people know your goals, they judge your weaknesses, not your strengths. The moment you reveal what you're aiming for, people stop listening to your ambition and start analyzing your vulnerabilities. They look for the gaps in your plan, the limits in your ability, and the points where you can be pressured, manipulated, or slowed down. Your goals become a lens through which others evaluate how to control your progress. People rarely measure your potential objectively. They measure it through the lens of their own insecurities, biases, and interests. When you expose your direction, you activate the part of their mind that looks for reasons you might fail. They dissect your strategy not to understand it, but to locate everything that could possibly go wrong. The more they know, the more they believe they can influence the outcome in their favor. Your goals reveal your desires, and your desires reveal your pressure points. If someone knows what you want, they know what you fear losing. They know what can distract you, what can frustrate you, and what can be used to control your behavior. This is why revealing your ambition is dangerous. It exposes the emotional triggers that make you predictable. A predictable man is never powerful. When people study your goals, they are not assessing how strong you are. They are calculating how strong you are not. They examine your resources, your timeline, your level of discipline, and your environment, searching for weaknesses they can exploit. Even if they never act on this information directly, their perception of your vulnerability shapes how they treat you. They become bolder in their criticisms, quieter in their support, and more confident in their attempts to influence your decisions. Your strengths do not intimidate people. Your potential to surpass them does. This is why they focus on your weaknesses. By highlighting your flaws, they convince themselves you are not a threat. By questioning your ambitions, they lower your momentum. By pointing out the obstacles, they make you doubt your path. Their judgment is not a reflection of your capability. It is a defense mechanism used to protect their own position. Power demands that you limit access to your intentions. When people can't see your direction, they can't evaluate your weaknesses. They are forced to respond to what you achieve, not what you plan. And when you remove their ability to judge your vulnerabilities, you remove their ability to interfere with your rise. Your enemies aren't always obvious. Many smile while waiting for your next move. The most dangerous opponents you face are not the ones who openly challenge you. They are the ones who appear supportive, attentive, and harmless. They hide behind politeness, curiosity, and subtle praise because direct hostility exposes their intentions too soon. What makes them effective is their patience. They wait quietly, gathering information, observing your ambitions, and analyzing your habits, so they know exactly when and where to strike. so, they know exactly when and where to strike. Most people do not attack you out of hatred. They attack out of self-interest. When your progress threatens their comfort, their pride, or their position, they adopt the mask of loyalty to stay close. This proximity allows them to monitor your decisions, influence your choices, and insert themselves into your circle without raising suspicion. They act friendly because being friendly gives them access, and access is the foundation of control. These hidden enemies watch your behavior with precision. They study your reactions, your frustrations, your ambitions, and your insecurities. They gather the pieces you reveal casually, the details you assume are harmless, and they assemble them into a complete map of your vulnerabilities. While you are focused on advancing, they are focused on calculating when your defenses are lowest. Their attack is never sudden. It is carefully timed for maximum damage. They often position themselves as advisors, supporters, or silent witnesses to your growth. They offer selective encouragement, not because they believe in you, but because they want to guide you into paths that benefit them. Their goal is not always to destroy you directly. Sometimes it is simply to ensure you never rise high enough to overshadow them. Their strategy relies on subtle influence, not confrontation. You must learn to read intentions, not expressions. Smiles can be weapons. Compliments can be traps. Interest can be surveillance. An enemy who shows hostility is manageable because you can prepare for them. But an enemy who hides behind loyalty is far more dangerous because you never see their real motive until the moment they act. Their strength comes from operating in the shadow of your trust. Power demands selective openness. Not everyone deserves access to your thoughts, your plans, or your weaknesses. When you understand that enemies often approach disguised as allies, you stop reacting to surface behavior and start observing patterns. The one who smiles the most may simply be waiting for the perfect moment to watch you fall, or to make sure they benefit when you do. The more you explain yourself, the more power you give away. Every explanation you offer is a disclosure of your inner mechanics, your reasoning, your fears, your doubts, and the pressure points others can use against you. When you justify your decisions, you teach people how to influence them. When you defend your choices, you reveal what criticism affects you. And when you try to make others understand you, you silently place them in the position of judge. That shift alone weakens you. In power, every explanation becomes a confession. It exposes your motives, your priorities, and the hidden insecurities behind your behavior. People listen to what you say not to understand you, but to evaluate where you can be persuaded or redirected. The moment you begin explaining, you move from acting with authority to seeking approval. And authority built on explanation never lasts. True dominance comes from actions that require no justification. Most individuals exploit explanations without appearing aggressive. They ask innocent questions, pretend to seek clarity, or express concern. But their real intention is to gather data. They want to know what drives you. They want to know what distracts you. They want to know what pressures you into changing direction. Every detail you reveal becomes a tool for influence. People cannot manipulate what they do not understand, but the moment you explain, you give them the blueprint. Explaining yourself also lowers your psychological presence. It signals that you care about the opinions of people who have no real authority over your decisions. Once they sense this, they become bolder in offering unsolicited advice, subtle criticism, and veiled challenges. You become someone they can question, someone they can push, someone they can influence. In the hierarchy of power, the one who explains becomes the one who reacts, and the one who reacts always loses ground. A person who speaks with certainty and acts without apology commands more respect than someone who constantly clarifies their intentions. Silence creates ambiguity, and ambiguity forces people to treat you with caution. When you don't explain yourself, they must interpret your actions without guidance. Some will fear your confidence, others will admire it, but none will know how to manipulate it. You maintain control by revealing nothing you don't need to reveal. Move with intention, speak with precision, and let your decisions stand without justification. Power is not in being understood, it is in being untouchable. Plans spoken too early lose their strength. A plan gains power from momentum, not announcement. When you reveal it before it takes form, you weaken its structure. You expose it to opinions, doubts, and resistance from people who have no investment in your success. A premature declaration turns a quiet strategy into a public target, giving others time to prepare, undermine, or reshape the outcome before it even begins. Every plan needs space to develop without interference. The early stages are the most fragile, and that fragility becomes visible the moment you speak about it. People begin offering unsolicited advice, projecting their fears onto your idea, or subtly discouraging you. They don't need to attack directly. Their doubts alone can alter your confidence and dilute your focus. And when your plan depends on external validation, it stops being yours. Speaking too early also gives imitators a head start. The moment people hear a promising idea, they begin calculating how they can replicate it faster, cheaper, or more effectively. They copy the concept, modify the execution, and present it as their own. While you're still preparing, by the time you act, they've already claimed the space you should have dominated. This is the silent cost of early disclosure. You invite competition before you're ready to compete. Plans thrive in silence because silence eliminates pressure. When you keep your direction hidden, you move without judgment, without expectation, and without external timelines. Your focus stays sharp and your energy stays intact. You are free to adjust, adapt, and correct mistakes without an audience watching. This private refinement strengthens your strategy before the world ever sees it, and by the time they do, it's already too stable to influence. When you speak too early, you also lose the element of psychological advantage. Surprise is a weapon. People cannot resist what they cannot foresee. When your actions appear suddenly and decisively, others have no time to interfere, imitate, or prepare. They are left reacting instead of competing. But when you announce your plan early, you eliminate that advantage entirely. You shift the power from your hands into theirs. A strong plan does not need early validation. It needs discipline, secrecy, and execution. The world should only discover your intentions when they are already irreversible. By keeping your strategy silent until it becomes reality, you safeguard its power and you ensure that its first appearance is its strongest form. Imitators appear the moment you expose a strategy. The second you reveal what works for you, others begin calculating how to duplicate it. They don't wait to understand your discipline, your risk, or your sacrifice. They only see the structure of your idea, and they rush to claim it before you can fully benefit from it. Your innovation becomes their shortcut, and your effort becomes their opportunity. This is the price of exposure. Your originality becomes public property. Most people lack the courage to create, but they have no hesitation in copying. Imitation is easier than innovation, and the instant you reveal your method, you remove the barrier that separates you from them. They no longer need creativity or insight. They only need speed. They replicate your direction, adjust your formula, and present it as if it were theirs. And while you're still building, they're already using your idea to elevate themselves. Imitators don't always announce their intentions. They listen quietly, ask harmless questions, or pretend to admire your progress. But admiration quickly turns into extraction. They gather fragments of your strategy, your goals, your timing, your structure, and assemble them into something they can use. They don't need the full picture. A single revealed detail can be enough to give them a foundation, and once they have that foundation, they race ahead, unburdened by the effort you invested. When you expose a strategy, you also expose the path you took to succeed. This gives imitators a map without the struggle. Your failures, your adjustments, your discoveries, They inherit all of it instantly, without paying the cost you paid. They get the reward without the sacrifice. This is why early exposure is dangerous. You allow others to benefit from your path before you've fully walked it. Imitators multiply when they sense opportunity. The more valuable your idea appears, the faster they appear. Some will copy you directly, others will disguise their imitation behind minor changes, and a few will pretend they never saw your strategy at all. But the result is the same. Your originality becomes diluted, and your advantage disappears. Influence only belongs to the first mover. But exposure eliminates that position. You protect your dominance by protecting your methods. A strategy loses its power the moment it becomes common knowledge. Keep your process hidden, your structure concealed, and your innovation silent until it's too late for anyone to replicate. When no one knows how you succeed, no one can steal the path that leads you there. Sabotage is silent, and it begins the second your direction becomes visible. People rarely attack you openly the moment you reveal your plans. Instead, they shift into a quieter mode of resistance. They start observing you differently, calculating how your rise might affect their comfort or status. The act of you showing your direction is enough to activate their defensive instincts. They won't confront you, they will simply begin adjusting their behavior in ways that delay your progress. Silent sabotage operates through subtle actions. People take longer to respond. They provide incomplete information. They offer advice designed to confuse rather than clarify. They encourage you in public, but undermine you in private. Their resistance is disguised as care, concern, or helpful caution. They don't want to be seen as obstacles. They want to slow you down without exposing their intention. And because their actions are indirect, you often won't notice the pattern until the damage is already done. When your direction becomes visible, you expose the parts of your life that are easiest to interfere with. People look for the weak points in your plan, not to strengthen them, but to exploit them. They identify where you depend on others, where you lack experience, where your resources are limited, and they pressure those areas quietly. Their goal is simple: make your path harder without appearing responsible for the difficulty. This type of sabotage is effective because it is deniable. Most sabotage comes from those who stand the closest to you. They are the ones with the most access and the least suspicion. They know your habits, your routine, your emotional triggers. They understand what discourages you and what distracts you. They can interfere without ever appearing malicious. A single comment delivered at the right moment can drain your confidence. A small delay can force you to lose momentum. A strategically timed doubt can change your entire timeline. This is how silent sabotage works: precise, subtle, and often disguised as care. The smartest saboteurs never appear hostile. They maintain a friendly face because the mask protects them. You don't notice their role until your progress slows down without explanation. And once you start losing momentum, they quietly shift to reinforcing the obstacles they helped create. They never fight you directly. They simply weaken you gradually. The only defense is strategic secrecy. When people cannot see your direction, they cannot design resistance. When they don't know your next move, they cannot interfere with it. Silence protects your path because it eliminates the information sabotage depends on. The strongest move in power is controlled silence. Silence is not the absence of words. It is the presence of discipline. It forces others to reveal more than they intend, while you reveal nothing at all. When you speak less, people feel compelled to fill the void with their assumptions, their fears, and their projections. This alone gives you an advantage, because the battlefield shifts from actions to interpretation, and interpretation can always be manipulated. Controlled silence gives you the ability to observe without exposing your own thoughts. You see who becomes uncomfortable, who tries to impress you, who feels threatened, and who rushes to speak just to gain your approval. Their reactions become information, and information is the currency of power. When you remain quiet, you collect data, while giving away none. You become unreadable, and unreadable people are always treated with caution. Silence also disrupts the strategies of those who rely on your responses to position themselves. They cannot predict your direction, influence your opinions, or pressure you into decisions when you refuse to explain yourself. They are forced to negotiate with uncertainty, and uncertainty weakens their confidence. This loss of clarity makes even powerful individuals hesitant, because no one wants to move against a person whose intentions are invisible. Those who cannot control their emotions fear silence the most. They mistake it for judgment, rejection, or superiority, and their insecurity pushes them into revealing what they should have hidden. They confess their motives, expose their alliances, and show their weaknesses, simply because they crave a reaction from you. In silence, people unmask themselves. They become transparent while believing they are still in control. Controlled silence is also a strategic weapon in conflict. When someone attacks you verbally and you refuse to respond, you deny them the satisfaction of influence. You force them to escalate, exposing their desperation. Or they retreat, realizing they cannot destabilize you. Either outcome strengthens your psychological position. Silence becomes the shield they cannot pierce, and the wall they cannot climb. When you master silence, you no longer chase validation, defend your choices, or explain your direction. You move with intention, act without announcing, and let others react to what they cannot predict. In power, the loudest person is rarely the strongest. It is the one who speaks last, speaks little, and speaks only when it is strategically necessary. Controlled silence is not passive. It is dominance, practiced with precision. Power doesn't belong to the loud or the visible. It belongs to the one who controls what others see, what they know, and what they can never predict. If you understand these lessons, you already operate differently from most people. You don't chase approval. You don't need permission. You move with intention, not noise. Your advantage will not come from being understood. It will come from being unreadable. Speak less. Observe more. Act only when it matters. The world reacts to the silent strategist far more than it reacts to the desperate talker. If you apply even one of these principles, people will start treating you with the caution they reserve for those they cannot calculate. If you've reached this point in the video, I want to know who truly thinks differently. Comment the words "silent mind" so I can see who actually finished this lesson. And if you want more content designed to sharpen your instincts and elevate your psychological power, subscribe to Dark Psychology Blueprint and stay close. The next lesson goes even deeper.